and every single time we ran it, it cost $1,800 and took 6 hours. It gets pretty expensive, right?
And I feel like people think, okay, like it's kind of easy. I can just match the email and it's going to be enough. It's going to work. But it's much more than that.
We've got the only proven solution that handles machine learning for that. And so we have 45 different models that will match customers based on the available data that they have across all those different channels.
Hey folks, so today I'm with Youssef and Caleb. Caleb is working for Amperity and we will be talking about CDP today. Hey Caleb, thanks for joining. Maybe do you want to start presenting yourself?
Yeah, my name's Caleb Benningfield. I'm the head of Lakehouse strategy at Amperity. I'm kind of we've been around since 2016, and I've been there pretty much the whole time. I've been doing startups for quite a while, and I started off doing software development work for us and client services work, and then eventually, kind of migrated into a bit of a startup within a startup model and did a lot of sort of research and development projects. And recently, I've been spearheading our Lakehouse initiative, building out connectivity with Databricks specifically, and I'm excited to talk more about it. But yeah, I've been doing startups for quite a long time, and looking forward to talking about the cool stuff we've built.
We've seen during DICE, during the Data and AI Summit, our annual conference, Matei was on the stage and he introduced Amperity as a new partner on the data sharing side, if I'm not wrong, and also on the CDP. So can you tell us more about the partnership you do have and also tell us more about the company you're working for?
Yeah, I mean, so the we are the first CDP to have a delta sharing based interface or integration with Databricks. Basically, the idea for us, CDP is a very odd term. There's a lot of different companies that call themselves that, and it's sort of as a category, it lacks a very unified definition. But what our version of that premise is that everybody's got an incredibly large amount of data, and an enterprise company will have hundreds or maybe thousands of tables that they have to manage, and each of those will have valuable things. And if they want to truly understand their customers, they have to standardize and unify that data. And we've built a tool that's really specializes to flexibly let people create a single really high quality data asset out of all of their disparate data sources, and then make that available in a bunch of different places. And so we connect using a delta sharing connection to Databricks, and then we use machine learning to generate an identity graph, and then we have a marketer interface for the resulting data. And so what you end up with when you use Amperity is really high quality data assets in Databricks for you to build AI on, or for you to build your own analytics dashboards or custom models. But you also end up with an interface for your business teams to log in and deploy paid media campaigns, or onboard Salesforce or Adobe if that's what you want. And so basically, it's a solution package that connects to your Databricks account and offers you like really nice data modeling tool, as well as something that it can be your profile manager and sort of onboarder for all of your different marketing channels.
All right, so CDP, Customer Data Platform. I imagine you connect like with marketing system, with ERP, maybe Salesforce. Can you give us a few examples of which data you consume, and maybe a few customer using Amperity, so that we have a better understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, companies will get data from all sorts of places. One of the most common ones will be an e-commerce platform. So there's online store, so that has profiles and transactions. But then they might have a loyalty program that has profiles. They might have physical stores where you get transactions and interactions. You might have web events and visits that you want to wrangle. You have response data from your emails that you've sent in the past that tell you lots of things about your customers. You want to know what products they've looked at online and offline, and what their purchase behaviors like in the past, and you want to know also like what their preferences are. So an increasing kind of push has been GDPR and CCPA for California, and sort of data privacy practices. So being able to understand your customer across all these touch points is actually not just about marketing anymore. It's also about operations. You have to be able to identify and manage data in that way too. And so we'll get compliance requests, we'll get preferences and opt status and that kind of stuff. And so all of that data is shaped in a very different way, and sort of turning it into something useful is often like thousands of hours of work to write a bunch of code to do that. And we're trying to make that more accessible, because if you're one of our customers, I'll give you some examples. We have them all over the kind of different verticals. I personally implemented our first customer, Alaska Airlines, and we have a couple of travel and hospitality style customers. We actually have all of the Seattle sports teams except for the Sounder or the Storm. So we've got Mariners and Seahawks, and we have an NFL and Seattle Kraken deal. But we also have a ton of retail customers like Tapestry, Dick's Sporting Goods, The Gap, that kind of thing. And then we also have kind of CPG grocery customers, your Nestle's and your Reckitt, Loblaw type of companies. And so it's we have enterprise companies from all these different verticals. You need something that's flexible enough because each of those businesses is so different that the airline companies care about passengers and reservations, but the retail companies care about online offline purchases more, and like specific products and what part of the store they're interacting in. And so you have to have something that can handle all those situations. But we've built something that can handle that enterprise scale and kind of tailoring it to a company.
And I think one of the main challenges when you have all these systems and maybe different brand within your organization, each system might have the same customer saved, for example, with like an email, but maybe it's not the same email, or maybe there is a typo, maybe we just have the phone number. So one of the big value of CDP is that you can connect all these platforms and try to identify and potentially cross-sell on the same customer. And I think you do things like that, like to match the customers. Is that one of the main use cases you have?
Yeah, that's actually our kind of primary differentiation. We have, identity resolution most of the time is handled by rules, and so people will say if their email address matches and their last name, and they might create a cascade of those, or they might use fuzzy matching. But we've got the only proven solution that handles machine learning for that, and so we have 45 different models that will match customers based on the available data that they have across all those different channels. And so, to your point, you'll have profiles in all those different systems, and the hard part is like the most active customers, your most passionate customers, generate the most data because they make the most purchases, they interact with your brand the most. And if you don't, have a really nice identity resolution set up, then you will end up treating them like two or three different people depending on how they interact, which can mean risk, but it can also mean that you're not optimizing their experience.
Yeah, and so for everybody, entity resolution is the process of matching these persona together based on, is it the same email, close to the same email, maybe using phone and things like that. I know it's a really big challenge, especially when you have a lot of data, because it can quickly become a quadratic issue, because you have to, for every entry, if you have 1 million, you have to match every entry against the full 1 million. And I know it's really hard to do if you do it yourself. And I think, Caleb, you somehow magically even do it at scale without any real issues. Can you tell us more on how it's working?
Yeah. So back in 2016, I'll step back even further. So before Amperity, the founders of Amperity were founders of a company called Aperture, which was a competitor with ExactTarget. So it was like email marketing and journeys type of tool. Our key learning when I was at that company too, our key learning there was how much difficulty it was for people to just get data modeled and onboarded for enterprise companies so that they could even send the marketing and do the personalization work. And so we set out here to try to solve that problem. And we worked with the University of Washington, Professor Dan Suchu, as well as we have our own PhDs, Yan, and our chief architect, Stephen Miles. And, they all got together and basically took a academic paper about entity resolution and figured out how to turn that into an actual product and collaboratively over the course of a couple of years. And then we, figured out, how to make that, performant. So the very first time we ever did Stitch was 40 million profiles, and every single time we ran it, it cost $1,800 and took 6 hours. Like, and that's like, so if you want to run that once a day, I mean, that's gets pretty expensive, right? And now that same stitch after 8 years is like 10 or 12 minutes and costs I don't know, $40-$50. Like, so there's been a lot in terms of refining the rules, but also figuring out how to scale that and how to turn that into something that's flexible enough for people. And so now our big, that 40 million stitch that took 6 hours. Now our bigger stitches are in the billions. Like we have, there's only 8 billion people on Earth, so and most companies don't have access to everyone, but they do have a lot of duplicate records, and they have a lot of sort of, if you do flights, for example, they often don't have a profile on the flight data. Everything's a reservation, so you have to like extract people out of that. And so basically, we worked with academics, adapted that into a proper product, and then figured out how to turn that into something that was scalable and profitable. For about 5 or 6 years now, that's been one of the biggest kind of key differentiations for what we do.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I did a bit of that in my previous job. So I just want to insist on how hard it is. When you have so many customers, you have to do crazy stuff. You have to kind of create buckets because you can always compare entities you think are kind of similar. So you have to do tons of pre-processing, cleaning. Then you have to create some buckets, and then you have to match the bucket together. Like it's really it's super hard to implement. The results are often not good, and I feel like people think, okay, like it's kind of easy. I can just match the email and it's going to be enough. It's going to work, but it's much more than that.
Well, and I mean, you got to think about it really is sort of this meet between digital and human, right? Like people have nicknames, and like one of the biggest ones that gets me is like most people have multiple email addresses, but most people use one email for like their shopping and one for work stuff, right? But like the thing that almost every rules-based algorithm loses is like half the people on Earth are women, and like a very common social norm would be for them to change their name or their last name when they get married. And almost every rules-based algorithm immediately treats that like an entirely new person. And that's like, and it's hilarious to me that everybody just sort of lives with that. And so, but we're able to look at it and say, no, but the email address hasn't changed. And like, we also see the address is similar. And we're able to like, understand from their actual profile data, but also from their interaction history that this is very likely the same person. And then do that with a transparency that tells you exactly how confident we are about that. And then you can decide, how, like, whether or not you want to take that match or not. But like that's like a simple example, but that's the kind of thing that happens across data in the real world. Someone will be Kimberly and someone will be Kim, and even like a Levenstein distance algorithm, that's too big of a difference most of the time. That's too many characters different to match that. So you need to be able to handle nicknames and how common a name is, and there's all sorts of different angles to that. And so that's why it takes 45 different models to kind of get to a really accurate result. And also you have to remember that like some data is very comprehensive. If you're buying online, you have to give someone your name and your address and your billing information and all of that. But if you buy something, in a store, you sign up for a newsletter, they might not have almost anything about you. And you have to have an algorithm that can handle both very populated data and also very sparse data, because if you only have an email address, then that might be good enough. But if you have email, names, phone numbers, all this other stuff, then you might have, you need to be more robust than that. But you shouldn't have to have 3 different jobs. It should be able to figure it out and apply only the models that are valuable for that data.
I think now I understand why Quentin wanted to be with us when I told him that we're gonna record a session with Amperity, because he used to work on this subject, so it does make sense. And I think you can do an example on him, because he has 3 emails with, and trust me, you cannot guess them. Like he has like an email with q@databricks.com. Quinton at Databricks.com. So maybe you need to test your algorithm against his email and see what would be the result.
It would be interesting, yeah. I mean, and that's actually one of the models. One of the 45 models will take an email address and we'll chop it up, and we'll say, okay, so every email is handle at domain.extension, and like Caleb Benningfield would like very common patterns would be C Benningfield or Caleb B or whatever, and we will like compare the handle versus the other information that we have, and that you can sometimes get extra confidence from that. But you're right, like there's so many different patterns.
And so are you using kind of Gen AI model? So because I could see, maybe it's super basic, but I could see how you can say, hey, I have these two customers. They look the same. That's what I know. Do you think it's the same customer? And you would send that to, I don't know, Llama 3 or OpenAI and get back the results. Do you start doing things like that? Or maybe not yet?
We're not using Gen AI for the identity resolution, but we are using Gen AI after the identity resolution. So basically, AI needs the best context and data you can give it, and so for us, the point here is that if you can give a more robust understanding of who a person of who that is, then your AI will be able to do far more accurate things. So one of the things that we've been working on that we're going to have in the solution accelerators on the Databricks site pretty soon is. Basically, you'll be able to use Amperity, but you'll be able to input your product data and description data, and then the segments that you build in Amperity, you can use Gen AI to take that and it will generate like custom descriptions for your website or for your marketing materials that are tailored to that group that use the right language for the right people. And so I think that like for us, it's like one of our big taglines is better data, better results. And I think that's kind of the way we try to simplify it, because it's a very complex topic. And often one of the things that we do in our partnership with Databricks is that Databricks is a very technical tool overall. Like it's a very kind of code focused interface, and there's lots of parts of the customers that we serve that are all about marketing and use cases and business strategy, and they don't necessarily know how to write code. And so if we can make that data available to them, then it will be, it helps them understand their business better. And so I think that's been, kind of a key part of the partnership as well. Both the ability to, because the things that let customers solve the most interesting problems in Databricks, like building Gen AI models, they have to get their data right first. And all of that's very tedious. Like you don't want to be standardizing profile data. Like that's been done so many times. And so our theory is that if we can help accelerate that and give them the best data asset possible, then they can focus their time on things like building Gen AI rather than focus, updating a workflow for, an email matching algorithm or whatever that is, right? It just creates more space for companies to work on AI and other, exciting revenue driving use cases.
Okay. So basically you're gonna need to send your data or ingest data on Databricks. I don't know, bring in emails from platforms using Fivetran or any other tool, ingest it in Databricks to run your transformation, and then connect Databricks to Amperity to do the magic.
That's exactly right. So we've worked with Fivetran quite a lot, and basically a company like Fivetran will populate the data warehouse with all of the raw data from all the channels and make that easy, and then we will connect with Delta sharing, and then create jobs with our machine learning algorithms to generate that ID graph, and then once we have that ID graph, we simplify it by using semantic tagging. So instead of having a specific schema where you have to write code to adapt to use Amperity, we one of the areas where we do use Gen AI is in figuring out tags. And so looking at a field and saying what kind of tags should go on that field is an area that we've augmented recently with that, because it's really easy for us to be like, that's an email, and that one is a revenue field versus a return field versus a like all these other things. And but once we have those tags, then we can generate standardized data sets. And so we have a library of 20 or 30 different data sets that we will generate for common use cases. So obviously your unified profiles, but standardized transactions, email opt behavior, or marketing response summary, predictions about varying different things. And so basically you can just point Amperity at your data, tag it, hit run, and the initial model will give you 20 or 30 tables that are kind of use case specific. You can just say, I want householding on this. And because we generate that ID graph and we have a householding model, you just get a householding model. And then you can tailor it if you want to tune it for your company, but you get like at least a basic, a version of a bunch of models, and then you can kind of adapt it based on your goals. And that's more valuable than like, having to write that stuff from scratch, especially when every company is solving exactly the same problem. Like
I just have a question. Can you get the Unity catalog metadata? Because in Unity you can have like comments, you can have tags, and to populate this automatically on the on Amperity to help enrich the semantic model you have.
That's something that we've got been sort of using as an expanded model. So one of the things that we've been trying to take advantage of and focus on here is I think a lot of SaaS tools like us, were built on like a Hadoop or something to that effect. And we didn't do that. We actually have been using a Lakehouse style open source format storage model the whole time. And so um, the cool part about that is that the project I've been focused on is creating that Delta sharing based integration. And then one of the first goals of it is extracting as much data as possible out of the Unity catalog bit. And so I think that's the intent is to have kind of a single governance layer where they can manage not only access but the metadata and the descriptions. And so we want that to be a loop, because we will populate Unity catalog for the new tables we generate alongside it, and so we can take in the tags from the inbound side, but also when we're generating new data sets, we're also populating Unity catalog. So you can use that Unity catalog bit as your single layer of governance, and that's been pretty powerful for companies.
So what's the main architecture you see with your customers? Do you connect directly to the customer system? Do you have some kind of reverse ETL to load the data into Amperity? Do you primarily connect to like a data warehouse like Databricks to get data? What do you see?
Well, up until about a year ago, we would always provide our own storage for everything. And so one of the biggest pushes we recently launched the Lakehouse CDP as a new position. And that's been kind of what I've been at the head of. And the big difference there was basically taking the storage layer for Amperity and making that configurable so that you can put it in different places. And so that allows our customers to use Databricks as their storage layer, and that basically simplifies things from a security stance a lot. It also means you're not having to maintain copies in different places and that kind of thing. But as a result, we actually have an entire framework of sort of SaaS ETLs for getting data from external systems, and putting it into the storage layer. And so, you can, we have connectors for things like your Salesforce or, Klaviyo, or for a lot of your different marketing channels. And so we'll pull that raw data in for our customers sometimes. I mean, really, our thing is the platform. Like, I think we take the term customer data platform very literally. We are a data platform that has a lot of features specific to customer data. So we have tools for pulling raw data in via connectors. We have tools for unifying and modeling that data. And then we have reverse ETL interface for marketers to be able to push data out into their various channels. So we kind of, and then on top of that, we have workflows and change management features that span the whole spectrum. So the point is, like, you don't have to use every single thing that Amperity does at once, but it is very much designed to kind of take the most common problem every company has and make it, so that you don't have to have many tools or do too much solutioning. It can work out of the box there. Now, that said, we have tons of customers who use us and Fivetran or use us and other tools there too. So it's not like I think the key is to give companies the option. Some companies really want to build their own stuff. Some companies really need the sort of paint by numbers approach where we can tell them, like, here's the problems you need to solve and here's the tools you could use. And if we can offer solutions for that, it makes it easier for them so that they don't need a massive team to support and maintain things.
Maybe one last question. I heard a lot that things around reverse ETL and CDP platform, and that's people are moving toward reverse ETL because they want to stop I don't know if it's the old way of doing CDP. I don't even know if that makes sense. But what's your thought on that?
I mean, it's complicated a little bit, but so the weird part to me is, is realizing that I've been in Amperity long enough for there to be an old way for CDP, right? Like, prior to Amperity, there was basically the model was you would, ETL used to be a very literal term. It was extract, transform, load, and you would use something like Informatica, or you would Talend or something to that effect, and you would write a job that did transformations and moved data, and it was pretty manual and heavy. But and when you have hundreds of tables, if it takes you 5 hours to write an ETL and you have 100 tables, that's 500 hours, right? Like that's that's a ton of work. You spread that over a team over time. It's just, it just completely chokes even an enterprise company. And so, our package of like features model is, was kind of there to solve that problem. But since then, I think that there has been a move away from large enterprise SaaS generally. Like, say even Salesforce missed their sales goal last quarter, and they don't miss sales goals. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
their thing. And so, like, I think that the current economy and the sort of recent changes in tech have created a lot of cost sensitivity, and so people really need to understand the value if they're going to spend, six figures or more on a big a big piece of software now. And so I think that has created a space for more of these component solutions. And so I think, like if I'm thinking about it, like you want to know what your job is, you're used maybe you've been around at the company since you were writing informatic ETLs, and like I think that the composable style solution offers a similar enough feeling that people have been kind of open to it. But from my perspective, the main composable CDP story is you use Fivetran or maybe Airbyte to get data into your data warehouse, and you use like Census, High Touch, RudderStack, any other reverse ETL tool to get data out of your warehouse. But it kind of leaves all of that stuff in the middle that we've been talking about up to your team, like standardizing it and turning it into something like reverse ETL tools are basically connectors to get data out of your data warehouse and into your marketing tools, but they don't do anything to make the data right. And so they need the data to be right before they can be valuable. And the hardest problem of all of it is standardizing all that data and unifying that data. Like it's very valuable. Like, I don't want to write connectors all day. That's tedious. It's valuable to have connectors, but like it doesn't make it a platform. And I think it does. Like if it takes 100% of the effort to build your CDP, then like Fivetran will take away 15%, and maybe like the Census will take away 15%, but that still leaves 70%. Like, and the 70% is the hardest part. Like, and it requires the most kind of longer term technical depth to really build it. And at an enterprise company, that means time means the potential for change, means reorgs and repriorities and all kinds of things. And there's so many half-finished projects. And so, the fact is I can take an Amperity tenant from zero. If all your data is in Databricks, I can take that from nothing to an initial model in like a matter of hours. And like, no matter how many tables you got. And that's the key that we're trying to focus on. And then, if they want to use different things for their connectors, that's perfectly fine. But I think that our big differentiation is that middle bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you nailed it. Because even if you move toward like a composable data platform and you have more and more systems, then you really want to have really, really good data to start with and clearly identify customers. I feel like because if you have multiple systems, it's gonna I feel like the effect of having bad data is gonna amplify as much, as bigger the system grows. So
and I think it reinforces silos too. You got to think about it that way. Like if marketers are using your reverse ETL interface, but like that all the data is being prepared somewhere else, there's still a silo there. It means that there's one team over here, and so Amperity is like in one UI. It's more tabs. Like the first 4 tabs in Amperity are very much for the technical people, and the last 3 or 4 are for the marketing people. But like the storage layer is the same, the workflows are the same, it's all linked the same, and so like it's just much easier to do. The other thing that I think gets missed in most build scenarios is operations. People really undervalue monitoring things and supporting and making changes. So like if you're using 4 different tools to build a CDP, then the problem is you have to monitor the jobs that are in Fivetran and monitor the jobs that are in Census and monitor your own custom jobs. And like either you're going to get yet another tool that monitors all of those across all of them, or you're going to have people that have to know which of the 4 or 5 tools you're using to go look at when something breaks. And I just think and then like if you want to make changes, you have to make a change in the source and then also in the middle and then also in the end, and that's 3 different places. It's like, our model of that is you create a sandbox, and because we're handling that end-to-end process, the sandbox for us is basically a one-click staging environment. So you can make a draft of your entire tenant, you make a change, and then you push it forward.
I think it's funny because I think Databricks has the same kind of, idea to have one single platform and to really unify everything and increase the data quality. And only now I can see how it translates to, customer data platform. I think it's exactly the same story, just one level more toward, maybe the business level. But I think it's really the same idea. So,
well, and I think that's absolutely right. And that's part of why we've really been leaning in with Databricks, because I think the key here is that I don't want IT teams to have to use our interface if they want to use Databricks, and I want the data to be the same. So they can write a notebook, and it'll update the data, or they can use our Stitch, and it'll update the data, or both, and in a nice way. But like the Unity catalog bit means that they can administer that data from a single place and handle ownership and control in a single place, and I think that's really powerful. And so you get the best tools for the technical teams, but also you serve the marketing teams, and it all uses the same Lakehouse storage layer, and that's the powerful thing. Like, I actually think connectors, long term, not immediately, it won't be a drastic change, but like, I think connectors are going the way of the dinosaurs, man. Like, they're done. Because why would I build a connector into Braze if Braze could just build a integration into Databricks, and then they just access the data in Databricks, and they connect via Delta sharing. Then like, you don't have to have a connector. There's no job. It just reads the latest data when it goes to send the email. And so I honestly think that like it allows like the business logic and processing to be modular, and you can start to build apps, but everything has the same storage layer, and each one can have its own different compute warehouse for the, this one needs to be really fast. This one needs to handle machine learning. This one's needs to be real time, and you can use Delta tables, for all of it under the hood with different compute.
And I think what you've described will speak to many people, like having to, implement, maintain different stacks, like one for observability, one for the connectors, one for the ETL, and like having those silos. It's super like, and it's also like increasing the cost, because you need to have an expert for every single tool, a support, of course, connect all those tools together, like rather than focus on what brings the value, like out of your business, you focus on maintaining different stacks. So that sounds. I mean, I am clearly on your side.
Oh no, I get it. I mean, I can get real worked up about this sort of thing, but I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that the hard part is like the whole point of SaaS is that in general is that if you're running an airline, then you should be best in class at running an airline, keeping the planes full, and dealing with all of that stuff. And like, you can't also be a software company. And I think the whole point is like, the more we make it this modular approach, the more we're expecting them to be a software company. Like, we're expecting them to know what kind of layer they need to use where. And I think that if their tools like Amperity or Fivetran or whomever can adapt to the kind of architectures they want, then we can stop them from having to worry about that sort of thing so much. And that frees them up to do the other things that are, to your point, drive actual revenue.
And Caleb, can you show us, please, the platform? I'm really curious to see how it looks like.
I have this data in my bronze data, this bronze database. And so that is, e-commerce data, customers, transactions, etc. And each of these has kind of its own schema of data that's available. And then you have, loyalty data, point of sale data, that kind of thing. And so each of these, has their own IDs. I could buy online, I could buy in store, I could have a loyalty profile, and you want to have a clear understanding of who that is. And so what you're able to do is you connect it to Amperity by going back out to your catalog, going Delta sharing, and then I've created a share already for the demo here, but in that demo is the e-commerce data, loyalty, and point of sale data. So I'm going to go to recipients, and I'll add a new recipient. And then that gives me a link to download my share credential. So I downloaded my credential file there. And now if I come into Amperity, so Amperity's basic UI here, let me zoom in a bit, is you have sources is accessing data. So this is where we're going to set up our connection to Databricks. Stitch is unifying it on down. And so we'll walk sort of top to bottom, but very much like like we've been discussing, the point here is that we want to be able to pull the raw data in, feed that into our Stitch model, which generates standardized, cleaned up data, feed that into our enrichment models, which generate a unified, clear data, and then provide that interface at the end. And so, like, ultimately, if you pass in these types of tables, you'll get, you'll have your customers, transactions, etc. You tag them, run Stitch. Stitch will output a library of tables based on the available tags. and then you can tailor those models and turn them into sort of cleaned up, useful data. And so if I start here at sources and I go look at that down here, what we've called the feature for our data sharing connectivity is a bridge. So I'll give that a name. And then I'll need to upload that credential. Here we go. This one?
Yeah, it's the last one. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're right, because I already had one. I had to get the. Okay. So there we go. And then now it's like that'll connect to the via Delta sharing, and you can see those same tables I was pointing at in Databricks, basically just letting me know, hey, these are the ones I want to be able to use. I can check that. I've already set this up, so it's going to give me name conflicts. But basically, it's telling me, hey, these are the tables we're going to register for Amperity to be able to use. I've already set this up kind of cooking style here, so I already have a version of this working. But basically, once you have that, then we apply a set of tags. And so if I come in here and look at, you see all the same tables, e-commerce transactions, itemized, point of sale, etc. So I'll open that up, and I have the option to tailor it a bit if I want to filter it down or something. But this is where all of these were just guessed. But like the point is we have a library of these semantic tags. So profiles, first name, last name, your full name, your generational suffix, addresses, phone numbers, etc. But we also have tags for a ton of different data models like products and transactions at the item level, and compliance requests and loyalty profiles and email events. And so this is not a very visual bit, but again, the kind of point here is these tags, when applied to these types of tables, output a bunch of different models based on those tags. And so what we do is we will tag all these different fields, and then we'll activate that. Close. And then that gives us this kind of a view here. Now we'll do the same thing for itemized transactions here. And then you can see, I've tagged that with transactions at the item level, discounts, whatever the different fields that are represented here. So once we have those tags, go ahead.
Just one question, Gail. For the auto tagging, have you built your own? Is it another behind scene who go and understand the metadata to tag the tables, or is it a model? How does it work?
So there's a couple of different ways it works. So if we are connecting via Databricks, we can pull them from the Unity catalog. But often what will happen is when we create the data, we actually have connectors to many different things. We call them couriers, and so you can see that there's a whole bunch of these, Adobe and whatever else in here. And so some of these we have information from the schema that we know from their APIs. But most of the time, a lot our number, if you look at the top examples here, Databricks, SFTP, they who shall not be named, and then S3 and blob storage. But you gotta most of these are not specific apps. They're just storage on the top here. They're our most common ones. And so what this will do there is it will look for. I haven't done it here, but it'll look at the first 10,000 rows, and it'll feed that into a process to sort of predict them. And so when you look at it and you see, all these different tags on it, basically these will look at the name, the first 10,000 rows, and a given model, and it'll sort of predict what those are. And so the common thing to do here is you can see this one is, it has this ID field here. You might want to actually change that format, but you can update the format, you can update the semantics. And so it basically, if it gets something wrong and you have a field, the most common thing is that you'll have a field that has no real discernible name or is sparsely populated. And so if you have something that's evar 15 or something, then we won't be able to necessarily guess that unless we look at all the data and see that it has an email address. And so, we either pull it, I guess to summarize, we either pull it from the metadata in the connector, or we look at the first 10,000 rows and use our own kind of processes to guess. And then you can tweak it before you hit go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
I can't see the screen while I'm sharing. So, okay, just for the sake of time here. So once we've tagged it, we kick it off and we run Stitch. And so this is our Stitch report. And what this is telling me is, 7 million records, my this is a cleaned up instance for telling the Databricks story, but like this is our normal sales instance has 130 million, and so 14 minutes for that stitch, but basically the whole point is that across these three systems you had 2 million IDs, 2.6 million here, 1.8 million here, and overall that was 7.1 million unique IDs across those systems. And when we stitched, we found 4.8. So that basically means within the 7 million rows, we found 4.8 million clusters of data, which roughly translates to a person. Although sometimes if you don't have enough information, you can get a lot of singletons, but that's something you'll tune. And then you can look at each of these and it'll tell you overlap with other data sets, what semantics were available. Since this is fake, it's all overly populated, but um, but what really the kind of key element here is it generates this graph. And so, in this example here, you can see, Alexandra, she's got 4 different duplicates of my e-commerce data, a loyalty profile and a point of sale profile, a couple of different email addresses. This one's slightly misspelled. Sometimes she's Alex, sometimes she's Alexandra. Maybe at some point she got married, her last name changed. And so the point is we compare all of those things and then we get a graph. And that graph is, we have hundreds of these things and, or thousands of them we've generated. They all kind of look similar when they're fake here. But the kind of key element is that you can actually interrogate the graph. So a lot of people do match and merge. We do match separately and we generate the graph, and then you can use that graph for any number of use cases. But like in this example, you can see we compared and contrasted this person, and we decided to give them a score of 4.14 out of 5. And you can actually like dig into it. And this transparency of being able to see what rules were applied and what weights were given is why you can use machine learning for identity resolution. Like without the transparency, it's kind of pointless. Like it's not confident enough to use. And so now you have a graph with a single ID, and then each of these nodes represents one of their profiles in a different system. So if I go over to my like bigger instance here, you'll be able to see much larger graphs. And you get kind of cool art out of it. That's one of my favorite bits. We have an entire channel for like cluster art. It kind of generates all these like very odd shapes.
So
It's fun.
so what's the use case behind that? Would you have human review maybe your top customers just to make sure you don't mess up with this one?
So typically what we do is we apply a default model, and then we use a library of Stitch QA queries to tailor it a bit for the customer. And then they can feed in labels if they want, or like block lists is a very common example. So like, within the settings, there's a ton of different tables that I won't get into too much, but you can set the confidence thresholds, and you can order the different blocking strategies. And there's a bunch of other like little things on here. And there's even some more advanced stuff back here. And so basically, we work with the customer, we apply the default model, and then we tailor it based on their needs and what they know about the data and kind of what their use cases are. So a common example is like if a loyalty ID matches, then you can give that a tag that says, don't ever second guess this. And so, and it allows you to sort of have a combination of rules-based and machine learning at the same time. Cool. Just in the interest of time, we have our ID graph. The next step is we turn that into a bunch of unified models, and so we'll generate, like a single profile, a customer 360 table, best available PII, rolled up behaviors from all the different systems, and we also generate a library of these standardized tables. And so, like again, my goal was to generate all of these useful tables. Now you can see these down here where we have like, standardized transactions from across the different systems, where you have an Amperity ID and all of these simple fields that you can use to understand your transactions regardless of where they came from. You have your transaction attributes. So these are simplified flags that are often useful for like a reverse ETL interface. So a simple flag for one and done purchasers versus multi-brand purchasers. RFM scores, behavior summarized in different time frames. And these are all just out of the box concepts. We also have predictive concepts. So you can have like predicted probability of purchase, predicted, we have predictions for where they'll churn. We have predictions for product affinity, where, like you can guess based on the type of customer they are that what type of product they might want. But we also do things like create standardized views for contact information, op status, whatever. And all of this data becomes available in Databricks. And so the kind of key element here is getting it back into Databricks. I've been talking a bit, but do you guys have any other questions before I move forward on it?
All clear.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe one quick question on the business model. Are you guys working at the raw level like Fivetran, or is it something else?
Sorry, the business model, meaning like what models we output, or
no, I mean how do you what's the billing?
Oh, the primary role of our pricing at the moment is based on the stitch output. So it's basically this number right here is our biggest modifier, because all of our jobs, generate some sort of compute, but this is the one that's the most expensive. And so that's the primary component, is how many profiles we're managing, which roughly translates to how many Amperity IDs. We're evaluating alternative approaches because we do want to make it a little more, a little more accessible for smaller companies to use. But the biggest thing for us is how many profiles, and then how many transactions and behaviors overall. So it is sort of row count based, but it is kind of biases towards the value that they're getting. So the actual profiles that are being managed. We don't charge for how many sources you have. We don't charge for how many outbound destinations you have. So my other tenant has a lot more destinations, way too many. That's why I'm not demoing from it. But you can have data being sent to your Braze setup, or and your Facebook and your Google Cloud and your whatever. And the kind of point for us is that that if you're using that means you're getting value from the data, which means you're likely to stay with Amperity. And sending data outward isn't very expensive. So we don't really charge for how many of these you use. Like this, in my demo tenant, I have hundreds of different, things for very specific demo stories. But the key model is just data we're managing for you.
Awesome. Okay.
So just for brevity, you create an outbound share to get the data back. This is all the tables that we just generated for you. And so, you select which tables you want, and you download a share, a credential, and you basically, import that into Delta sharing the same way we did the first way. And the end result gives you, back in your catalog, you'll see, oh, look, there's Delta share down here. And now all of a sudden I have all these tables that are worth using, that I can go build AI on, or custom models or whatever. There's a whole marketer interface and everything too. But I don't want to do a 40-minute demo.
No, that was amazing. I love it, honestly. I feel like it's super easy. I'm gonna say it again, but if you want to try to do that yourself, I would really reconsider and try to see if you can buy something inside. And I love the how easy it is to get the data in and out, just using Delta Share. I think it's really powerful. And yeah, if we can make the connector slowly die to make everybody's life easier, it would be amazing.
I mean, I think it's exciting. We're going to be able to have a modular set of applications that run on Databricks using this kind of model, and I think that it'll be great. It's easy to extend.
Yeah. More use case downstream on the data would be amazing.
And one more thing before we end the call, or the recording. Do you have any trial period that we can attach in the recording, make sure if someone is interested, how they can get started, or to whom they need to reach?
So Databricks at Amperity.com is an email list for that at the moment. We are beginning to take requests for that. I think a little background here is that Amperity was very much built for the enterprise originally. And we didn't even have a UI for a couple of years. So it's, it's been a long time. It's been a long road there, but we have been, kind of shifting towards a more product-led motion here. And so we're experimenting with a consumption model, which would allow people to do pay-as-you-go, where because not everybody wants to. Most of our customers update their data graph several times a day or once a day. They want it up to date constantly, but some people just want to do one match, and they don't, and so we want to be able to open the door for that kind of thing. And so we're experimenting with a consumption model for that, and then we're also beginning to roll out a sort of, I won't say beta, I'll say alpha, free trial concept. And so, but if anybody's watching this and is interested and wants to give Amperity a try, Databricks at Amperity.com is the distro email for that. And so, please feel free to hit us up on that. And then, of course, I'm looking forward to kind of that transition and into being able to see what people build with it, because I do think that ID graph as an asset is just, you could use it for clean rooms, you could use it for compliance requests, you can use it for AI, you can use it for any number of things. There's something I didn't have a chance to show is our sandboxes, but also you can output that ID graph in in a format pre-built for graph databases, which is super useful for a lot of modern cases. So I just think that there's going to be a lot of great, I'm excited to see, it get out there without the services motion associated. And I'm really, hoping to see what people build with the identity graph over time.
That sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No free trial at the moment, but email us and I'll take care of you.
That works well as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was an astonishing demo. All the features you do have on the platform, how it has been built, how the platform is evolving, and you give us a sneak peek of what to expect in maybe the next couple months. Thank you so much. Any other words, Quentin, Caleb?
No, thank you, Caleb. It was amazing to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. This is fun times, and I've been watching more and more of your videos. I'm excited to kind of see this grow, and nice work with building this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Hey, take care.